Buenos días, alegría. Alegría. That is how our faith development classes open each week, and our children will be with us today for the first time in a while. They'll be sitting on that front row and we will sing them out. And before they come, let us listen to this bell. As we breathe together and listen to the ebbing sound of this bell, we affirm our hope for peace. We also acknowledge that these lands that we love, that are so full of beauty, these lands are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people, the Cuevquepayas, the Tolquepayas, and the Yavapai, the Wipukepas as well. As we left the installation on Thursday, and I imagine we're sort of sparse today because people had to apply lots of liniment after dancing. After the dance party, they're still hanging out on their sofas groaning. But as we left that installation that was so happy on Thursday, a crescent moon glowed in the distance, and above that was a bright planet. Let's listen to Crescent Moon.
Good morning. Welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Kelsey Wilkes, and I am your worship associate today, the last Sunday of Women's History Month. We extend a warm welcome to all, whether you are here in person or joining us on Zoom, and there are quite a few on Zoom today. Are they the people on the couch rubbing liniment? Okay, all right. Oh, I got a thumbs up from Joyce. Well, we hope you are all in good health. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Please join us after service for coffee in Davis Hall and an opportunity for you to find your spark, as we have tables set up for you to look at all the opportunities for things that you can join in this congregation and help it be as vibrant as it can be. If you're on Zoom, you'll be able to join a breakout room at the end of the service. If you're joining us for the first time, please check us out at prescottuu.org for more information. And if you're here in person, there will be time at the end of the service to introduce yourselves, and you can chat with a member or two. And you can visit the membership table as one of the tables that you can enjoy after the service. We want to thank our Sunday morning volunteers, our pianist Lena Hubin, our guest musician Tom Ewell, and our Granite Peak singers. You will hear extraordinary original compositions from our music director, Mary Lou Prince, and lyrics by Reverend Patty Willis. Now, please take a moment, set your phones to worship mode. In addition to the announcements that were shown on the screen before the service began, you can also read more about us in our newsletter, The View, The Weekly Peak, on our website, and Reverend Patty's weekly videos. I have here that we have some printed copies of the announcement at the welcome table, but I'm not sure if that's true. Might be. Sandra Palacios, and our faith development coordinator, teaches 5 and up across the street. And as Patty said, they will be joining us during the service. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Tracy Augustine. Today's chalice lighting is Prayer for Farm Workers, adapted from the United Church of Christ. Gracious and justice-loving Spirit, we ask your special blessing on farm workers, our neighbors who are among the most abused workers in the United States. They work long and hard to grow the food we eat, but they cannot always afford to feed their own families. We know the desire for all people to thrive and live lives of wholeness, but poverty and mistreatment block most farm workers from this goal. Please, Spirit, give us courage and commitment to support farm workers' struggle for justice and equity, so one day soon, all workers will fairly share in the abundance of this world. Let us be the voice crying out in the world where justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. Ooh, I still have that feeling of excitement when I actually hear voices. And I also, a special welcome to all of you on Zoom. It's wonderful to see you today. My words this morning are from Janine Gelsinger's post on Facebook after she returned to Phoenix after being at the installation. She is the co-director of UU Justice Organization in Arizona. She wrote, "Just flopped into bed after being maybe at the best dance party I've been to in a long time. When Granite Peak said they had a playlist 5 hours long, we laughed and thought they were teasing us. But no, not so. I can't even start to name a highlight. Finding myself accidentally leading a line dance to Boot Scootin' Boogie, witnessing a surprising and amazing moonwalk to Thriller, 90s baby Casey, who was with her, finally jumping in to save us when no one remembered the Macarena. Busting out the Running Man to Ice Ice Baby. Casey and I tore ourselves away at 8 p.m. and there were still 30 to 35 people on the dance floor. I had so much fun. I'm going to bed, convinced there must be a direct connection between a congregation that can do transformative justice work to move themselves and their neighbors closer to beloved community, and a congregation that can throw a kick-ass party, dance us young folks under the table, and prioritize joy of celebration and relationships. Organizing can be hard. Working with congregations has its challenges, sure. But to quote Casey on the way home, my cup is going to be full for a while after tonight. For the cup that is full in this moment, for the limbs that are sore from dancing, let us rise in body or spirit and sing together, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. I think we were going to do the Spanish. Let us sing in Spanish. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón, cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. And now let us say our covenant together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I don't want everyone to get too excited, but we are happy to have you guys here with us today. And I'm going to be telling a story about someone who walked side by side with Cesar Chavez. How many of you know Cesar Chavez?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you know Dolores Huerta?
Yeah.
Not enough. So Dolores Huerta was born. Can you hear me through here?
Oh.
Wait a little bit. Number seven. And you guys are going to hear all about Dolores Huerta today in your class. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that because it was when she was your age that she started to understand. She received that feeling of what she needed to do because her mother had a hotel in California. And sometimes people would come to her hotel, families who worked out in the fields, and they would come to her hotel and they'd say, we really need a place to stay, but we don't have any money, or we only have a couple of dollars. And her mother would let them stay. And she learned from her mother how important it was to listen to the people who come to you and to think about the lives of the people around us. And then another thing happened because she became a teacher. And she was a teacher kind of standing like I am in front of a class. And she'd watch all of her students come in and sit down. And she would notice things. She'd notice that some of her children didn't even have shoes, or they looked really hungry. And she discovered that those parents of the children were working so hard in the fields, but still they didn't have enough to give their children shoes and to give their children food. So Dolores Huerta joined with Cesar Chavez. They became friends and they began together this big organization that helped farm workers get more money. Exactly. Thank you. Yes, because that's what they needed. And one time she came to Arizona, and Cesar Chavez, in order to make people understand the importance of what he was doing, did not eat for more than 30 days. Can you imagine? Once I didn't eat for 2 days, but I can't imagine 30 days. Anyway, Cesar Chavez and there was newspapers all around, but in Arizona where they were, the people around them kept saying, no se puede, which means we can't. And Dolores Huerta had this idea. She stood up in front of them and she said, sí se puede. Yes, we can. Sí se puede. Everyone, sí se puede. Sí se puede. That's pretty weak. Sí se puede. Good. And that made everyone feel like maybe it was possible. And I sometimes, in what I do, I wonder, I don't know if I can do that. Sí se puede. Thank you. So what should we think? What should we hear when there's something really hard that we can't do?
Sí se puede.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any message for us? No. Okay. I know. I just wanted to ask. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to this story. And you're going to learn a lot about Dolores Huerta today. This is a poster with her. She was born in 1930, 1 year before my mother. And she will be 93 this year. Wow. 93. And she is still saying what? Sí se puede. Okay. Thank you all. And now you can go to your class. Thank you for coming. And we are going to sing them out. So we haven't done this in a very long time. Do you mind going through here? Do you want me to lead you? Puede. For another time in our service, and I invite you once again to listen to the sound of this bell and to let us breathe together and let us find that center within us. Let us breathe and think of those amazing ponderosa pines around us. At dusk last night, as I was walking in the forest and listening, I could hear the silence. Let us share this silence together. Each week we gather, carrying our joys and sorrows with us. The joys of babies being born and the sorrows of our loved ones' illnesses. Or as I've just heard, the illness of our precious dog. We gather today in community to share those sorrows and those joys with one another. We share in the sorrow of this earth, people still recovering in Turkey from that, and Syria from the devastating earthquake. Those who are mourning, those who died, 26 people in Mississippi and Alabama with the tornadoes, and so many homes devastated. We also hold in joy Mike and Joanne Fogel, who are here with us. We are happy to see you and send you our love. We hold Joyce, and we especially hold Karen Denny this morning, who began to feel better at around midnight last night. She's on the mend, but couldn't sing yet. So we want her to get well enough to sing. And we also hold Marilyn Coulter, who is still in Phoenix, and Edie Ingersoll, who is recovering, and Bev Bostrom, and Karen as a caretaker and mourner, and Kathleen Schaefer, Frank and Nancy Beeson, Kelsey Wilkes and her husband Jeffrey, who are healing. Are there any names that are on your hearts and minds today that you would like to lift up in this community? Leslie Grady, of course, Leslie Grady. Yes, Gay and Ted Putnam. Is there anyone? Nobody's writing on chat. And we hold this part of the earth in joy for the streams that are running for the water that is abundant, and for the way that will sink into this earth and bring more safety from fires and more food for those deer and javelinas and squirrels and much else. And now in this moment, I invite you into a time of the silence of trees. And during this time, it won't be completely silent because Lena will be playing. I invite you to come up and drop a stone into one of our bowls of water. Oh, and there's another joy I'm seeing out there of Terry and Julie and their happy marriage a week ago. Performed by me. I don't just do funerals. It was wonderful, wonderful, happy. So let us enter that time. I invite you to add a stone to and I add 2 of joy for my brothers who were visiting me this week and gave me so much love. And all of you, I can't put all those stones in there, but all of you and your expressions of love in cards and in so many, many ways. Please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our lives who make us who we are. Those joys and sorrows that we care for in one another, that we celebrate, are part of what helps us grow into beloved community. We ask today, on this day, when we celebrate the life of Dolores Huerta, we ask for the care, for the justice, for the farm workers all over this world and for their families. We ask for wisdom, for ways to know how to make that justice right here. For all those who are suffering, we ask for comfort. In your many names we pray. Amen. And now we sing together our joys and sorrows.
As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connections and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that our congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient is UU Jazz, whose vision of justice is to energize people of faith to create an environmentally sustainable, spiritually filling, socially just life for all who live in Arizona. You can read about them in the order of service. To give online, the link will be available in the chat, or you can visit our website. Please enjoy our offertory music, Alecite by Mary Lou Prince with Tom Yule on clarinet. That was lovely. Thank you. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is accepted in gratitude. Blessed be. And now we will have a stewardship moment with Mary Ann Erickson.
Good morning to everyone here and on Zoom. It's a pleasure to be back with you after a wonderful, challenging trip to Costa Rica, where there was an earthquake. You might have heard. It was only 5.4. And so being a Midwesterner and only having experienced one earthquake, it was quite surprising and alarming. But they all said, oh, it's just a tremor. So excuse me, not in very good voice today. Thank you to all of you who have pledged thus far and to the yeoman efforts of our dedicated stewards to reach every member and pledging friend to check in and accept pledges. It was my great delight today to arrive into the office and find 3 more pledges in the stewardship mailbox. They're coming in at a more rapid rate now because we're closing in at the end of our campaign. I want to remind you of our goal of $257,074 for fiscal year 23-24 that begins July 1st. That is to fund all Granite Peak ministries, our staff compensation, building costs, the choir, all special music, and our faith development for children and adults, and for membership support. To date, before these 3, we had 49 pledges. So now we're up to 52 pledges. Thank you very much. The total pledged currently is $171,114. That is an average increase per pledge of 6%. We are at 67% of our goal with 1 week to go. So if you haven't yet pledged, please see me in Davis Hall or contact me at home if you're on Zoom. We need an average of a 10% increase across the board to make the goal that the Board of Trustees and the Finance Committee have set for us. If you haven't yet been contacted by a steward yet, please see me in Davis Hall or contact me at home. And thank you very much for all of your generous gifts of stewardship, which include time, talent, and treasure. I appreciate your support, and the stewards do as well.
Thank you, Mary Ann, for your incredible energy in helping us move ahead in that way. There are so many ways that this congregation is vibrant, and I am very appreciative of Mary Ann Erickson's work. And I know she works often with Mary Ann Clark, so I'll look at you too. Let's listen to this bell. If you have a program, we're diverting it a little bit, just a little. This is the bell I'm reminded of the temple bells that I heard each morning for 24 years of my life. Yesterday morning when I woke up, I didn't hear a temple bell, but I looked outside and saw those trees. And I thought of Dolores Huerta waking up in the accommodation where she lived, and she had 11 children. And she lived as the farm workers lived in Delano when she was working with them. I imagined her children needing breakfast and possibly lunches for school. And in her documentary, Dolores, which I hope all of you see, we saw how her children had to all come together to make that family happen. Because the fire in her heart made her feel responsible, not just for her 11 children, but for the farm workers as parents and for all their children, waking as she was waking, but without the possibility. She would often say to her children, "We are poor by choice." And Dolores Huerta did not just have a spark in her, she had a fire. Knowing of the farm workers' conditions, that often they had to work all day with no water, no chance to rest. The children she had taught, who sometimes came in without shoes and hungry, and she had to go out and talk with them, listen to them, and fire them up from her fire. She had to inspire a movement to help them see all that they were capable of. And that fire she felt was not grandiosity, for she did change their world, and she changed our world. She expressed that world, as I said in the children's story, "Sí se puede." Yes, we can. When she heard "no se puede," she would say "sí se puede." And I believe because she lived as she did, people listened. She was the change she wanted to see in this world. And it's easy to look back on the lives of people who've accomplished such systemic change and see them as different from us, to see their lives as particularly blessed or smooth. In the documentary, which I hope we will see soon in this sanctuary as a movie with meaning, we see the difficulties she must have encountered every day as a mother of 11 living in poverty with her children, so that she could organize a successful movement with Cesar Chavez, creating together the United Farm Workers of America. She seemed to take all of these children miraculously. She never looked harried. She would take these children into the flow of her life. But there were 3 key times in her life, completely beyond her control, that challenged that fire that she held. The first one was around Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy was part of a committee in Congress where he came to know the work of the United Farm Workers. And at first he didn't think that it was that important. And then he met Cesar and Dolores. He came, he saw the way the farm workers lived and worked and their children, and he caught their fire and they caught his, and they were at the forefront of making him the candidate of the primary who won in California. And with their connection with him, they were empowered, and they felt that a new era was opening for farm workers, for the working poor, that they would have a voice if he became president. Dolores Huerta was standing next to him when shortly after midnight on June 5th, 1968, Senator Robert Kennedy was shot and killed at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. At the moment they were celebrating winning the California presidential primary, Dolores Huerta kept going in deep grief, losing the promise in that moment that United Farm Workers of America would have a voice in the White House. She kept her spark. And in 1972, but I'm imagining it wavered a little, until in 1972, during the time that I explained to the children, after a 25-day fast in Phoenix, Dolores Huerta first spoke those famous words, "Sí se puede." She knew sí se puede, because she had had to live out those words. In the song we wrote for her, it is dawn in a place like Delano, where she lived in the early 60s, side by side with farm worker families. She must say goodbye to her children and begin her day. Mary Lou and I wrote this song for the courage and resilience of Dolores Huerta. Sí se puede. Now we get to the second event that could have taken her energy, that happened in September of 1988 in front of the St. Francis Hotel in Union Square, surrounded by people in a peaceful protest. The police, the policy against the policies of the then candidate for president, George H.W. Bush. He was having a $1,000 a plate dinner at the St. Francis Hotel. And during that dinner, Dolores Huerta was severely beaten by a San Francisco police officer. Her spleen was destroyed. She broke ribs. She had to take a year off to recuperate. And we know she was not fudging with that year. She needed an entire year to recuperate. That could have been the last we heard of her. But instead of stopping, she shifted gears. And that year became an incredible time of reunion with those 11 children she had hardly had time for when they were growing up. Unable to work, she and her children bonded. She shifted to receiving, being a recipient of their love, which changed everything in her family and in her personal life. And after that year, she was up and running. Then, on April 23rd, 1993, Cesar Estrada Chavez died peacefully in his sleep near Yuma, Arizona, a short distance from the small family farm where he grew up. The beloved director of the United Farm Workers was gone. Having stood by him and in many ways having been a co-director with Cesar Chavez, it would have been natural to choose Dolores Huerta to succeed him. When the all-male board, except for her, chose a man to succeed Chavez, Dolores knew it was time to say goodbye to this organization that she had co-founded. In her documentary, we see her saying that goodbye. This was a painful goodbye for her, and it could have meant that she disappeared from public life. She was 63. She could have retired. But then soon she was given a grant of $100,000, which she didn't use for retirement. She began the Dolores Huerta Foundation, which is up and running today. As founder and president of the Dolores Huerta Foundation, she continues to travel. She travels across the country, engaging in campaigns and influencing legislation that supports equality and defends civil rights. She often speaks to students and organizations about issues of social justice and public policy. There are still thousands of working poor immigrants in the agriculture-rich San Joaquin Valley of California. They are unfamiliar with laws or agencies that can protect them or benefits they are entitled to, and they are often preyed upon by unscrupulous individuals who take advantage of them. They often feel hopeless and unable to remedy their situations. Those words come from the Dolores Huerta Foundation site. And Dolores is there to teach these individuals that they have personal power that needs to be coupled with responsibility and cooperation to create the changes needed to improve their lives. She also learned through this last difficulty that she needed to take credit for what she did. And through taking credit, she has spread courage among Latinas. On April 10th, she will be 93. And that spark is still burning bright. We're going to send her our song. In her life, especially with these three events, she had to find a new spark. So I wonder with you, have you ever felt your own spark die? I have seen it in people on fire to write a novel, or in the case of my father, publish a big book of his photographs. And what happens when we receive that rejection letter from the publisher? For some people, that spark dies. We can also lose our spark when a child or a partner dies. Someone is passed over us in our work. When we run for office and lose, or when we put all our energy and some money into a candidate and they lose. We can feel like it just isn't worth it anymore. It's almost a price you pay for that bright fire. When we lose our spark or our ability to do that thing that sparks us, we need to get creative and curious about all the other options that this world offers. Dolores Huerta knew how to do that. In this congregation, I'm thinking of Peter Eldridge and how his low vision keeps him from biking alone on the mountain trails. So he has a stationary bike, and I imagine his imagination is going while he's using that. And he has a friend who has a tandem who takes him, I'm sure, dangerously through the mountains. Sometimes it is hard for us to go and rethink. So we are stuck, as Dolores Huerta could have been stuck, as the person who should have been the president of the United Farm Workers Association. But she would have none of that. She found her spark in new ways. And what a spark. I wonder, do you sometimes drag through a day and then something happens that lifts you up and gives you energy? I think that there is that big spark, our search for meaning in our lives and joy. And then there's the spark that is simply the human gift we give each other. I have received many sparks from you all and from people standing next to me in the line at Safeway. Mary Lou has given me permission to give you a part of her story about how she unexpectedly found a spark in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, our first one. When we moved back to the United States from Japan, we came from a very different life. Mary Lou had been away from choir directing, not music, but choir directing for 24 years. And the UU congregation where we landed needed a music director. Woohoo! What a wonderful synchronicity that was. And when she looked over the music that they had in the library and used it in rehearsals, she realized that the ranges didn't fit the singers. So the choir sounded awful singing that music. And with that, her composer spark was ignited, and she began to write music, first using Emily Dickinson's poems. Soon, though, she began to want to write songs about the moon rising over the Santa Rita Mountains, the wonder she felt at a Sonoran desert dawn. And she wanted to create Christmas songs that reflected the theologies of Unitarian Universalists. She asked me to write the lyrics. I said no, because although I love to write, I had never thought of writing words to music. The first song she pushed me into writing was Shepherds Hear Our Singing, a Christmas song of angels yelling to the shepherds to listen to them. Her spark caught fire in me. And since that time, we have written over 50 songs together, including the one you heard today. The performances of those songs happened in concerts. Many of them raised money that kindled other sparks to save canyons, support immigrants, Ukrainian refugees, buy a motorcycle for my pastor friend who does reconciliation work in Rwanda, fulfill microloans in Central America and Mexico. And then in our neighborhood, we met Thomas Ewell. There he is. Actually, our dogs, Miley and Louie, met each other first. And then we met Thomas. And that lit a spark that led to the music that you hear today, because we found out Thomas Ewell plays the clarinet. Those sparks that you felt in the first and the last pieces you will hear in this service This is the first time anyone is hearing those pieces. And I hope that they light a spark in you. These sparks that led to songwriting and the spark that led me to ministry that we celebrated on Thursday were born in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. At the installation, we also experienced the sparks of people in our community who love to make wonderful parties. The parties that deepen that joy that we have in our community. One of the great opportunities I have found of being in a faith community, especially a UU faith community, are all of the ways your spark can be part of building beloved community, which happens with dancing, rummage sales, congregational dinners, worship services, brewing coffee after the service, making muffins, just as much as it does holding a vigil in this sanctuary, worshiping together, marching around Courthouse Square. Today in Davis Hall, people in different areas of social justice and other areas of our church life have tables set up, or sometimes they might just have a sign that says, interested in the choir. But they are waiting for your questions. Be curious, prepare to be surprised. Our sparks can transform. They transform us through the years, and they are transformed. Rhea Batterman was an accountant in her former life, and she had enough of that spark. There is no way she will ever be our treasurer or be on the finance team. I don't think she's here today. Anyway, this is a place where you can redefine yourself. I have a brother who's been a physician all his life, and now he loves to make a perfect scone or a loaf of bread. If he lived here, I think he would join Chris Hawthorne in hospitality. Last night, as Mary Lou and I were sitting in front of our fireplace, the fire made lots of loud pops. If only our hearts would make such a sign when we felt a spark. May our ears be able to hear that spark when it goes off. I wonder what the universe has in store for each of us. As Janine Gelsinger wrote on Facebook, we are a congregation that can do transformative justice work as well as throw a kick-ass party. Our community members bring all kinds of sparks. May we follow Dolores Huerta. May we find that spark within us that will change and light up the world. Amen. And may it be so. And now let us rise in body or spirit, and Mary Lou Prince will lead us in when the Spirit says do. Got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Lord, to do when the Spirit says do. Says do. Spirit 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 says do. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing, oh Lord, you've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. It says sing, Spirit 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 says sing. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you've got to shout. Oh Lord, you've got to shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 It says do. Woo! I sense many choir members out there. I'm feeling the spark ignite. Speak with Lou after the service. May we find our sparks and then take a leap into the future with curiosity, creativity, and courage. Let us now listen to the premiere of a new work to accompany our leaping, taking the leap. See where sparks get you? Before we take our leap into Davis Hall, where food and coffee is waiting, as well as sparky people, let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now you wonderful people on Zoom will go into breakout rooms. And so good to see you, Drew. I just noticed you. Drew Potter is with us, and Bronwyn, and Joan Brown, Rick Denny, Judy Davis. Hi, Judy. If you're not well, I hope you're better soon. And Joyce. and Karen. And we hope Cerise is doing fine. And those are the faces I see. And they can't understand when we introduce ourselves in here. It's really boring. So you guys can go into your breakup room. Somebody said that. Breakout room, sorry. Okay. Don't break up. Unless you have to. Anyway, sometimes you have to. Oh, so this is the time for us to meet and greet one another. But first, I would like to invite any of you who are here after a long time or for the first time or second time and didn't have a chance to introduce yourselves. Could you please do so at this time? Thank you, Stephanie. Yay, welcome, welcome. Is that the large? There's a very large one there in Dallas. Uh-huh. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And the two people in the front row were in Houston.